and I just was so sad. And I went upstairs and I was just crying and just telling her all the things. Welcome back, and thank you for joining us for another video. And if you're new, thank you. We're so glad you're here. My name is Jasmine.
And I'm Dave.
And this is Engineered by God. So Dave and I have been thinking about having another baby, God willing. But it got us thinking about, things with Josiah and how it was having him the first time. And we started talking about how, the first time I had experience with baby blues and postpartum depression, and just thinking about reflecting on that and thinking about what we need to do for the next time if I were to experience that again.
Right, and hopefully by, being open, we can kind of model what it's like for real people in a real marriage and, real life. Because this is something I feel like isn't really talked about that often, or at least I wasn't hearing those conversations oftentimes. And maybe this might help our future selves, because obviously we don't want this to happen again, but if it does,
we'll be ready.
We'll be ready, right?
So let's just go into, what we knew going in. So what did you know?
So honestly, I knew basically nothing about this. Outside of an episode of Blackish that I had watched, that we actually watched before Josiah was born. So it was like the first time I seen someone talk about postpartum depression at length, in some type of open way. But outside of that, I really had no idea what postpartum depression was, what to expect, what it would look like if it did happen to Jazz.
Yeah, and for me, I had been watching a lot of YouTube videos leading up into the delivery, and so I heard a lot of women talk about it and their experience with it. And I thought that, I knew enough so I would be able to recognize those signs in myself, but I did not.
Right, it's kind of funny because I think I'm the first one to recognize it. Like the initial beginnings of it, like before we really knew what it was, but I saw this in Jazz, is around nighttime, like once the sun would go down, like all of these fears and worries and anxieties would just kind of like rush into her. And at first I kind of thought, hey, sometimes, Jazz does worry about things. And obviously we have this newborn baby. We want him to be safe, and that makes sense. But it seemed to be like beyond the normal, hey, I just want him not to be too cold, or I just want to make sure that, he's sleeping okay. It was like I don't want him to die, and that's like a scary thought, obviously. But it kind of seemed to get to a point where like your mind is going to places so quickly that this is a little worrisome, honestly. And it seemed to really have a control over her, that even though she knew that some of her thoughts weren't reasonable, that she still couldn't shake them.
Yeah. And that's pretty much exactly what it was. So just going into what I was experiencing, basically, the nights were rough, if I'm gonna be honest. Josiah wasn't sleeping because he only wanted to sleep if someone was holding him. And so I wasn't getting any sleep. I was also breastfeeding, so, feedings were mainly my job during the night when he was waking up. And so it was rough. And also I was worried about SIDS. And so I wanted to make sure he was sleeping in the correct position all the time, but he really just did not like sleeping that way. And so I think I just started getting, once nighttime came, I was already like, it's nighttime. This is the bad time of parenting. This is the part that I don't like. And like I said, just the SIDS, being scared, not having control. Like when I'm asleep, what's going to happen? Is he going to be okay? Is anything going to happen to him? I can't be in control when I'm sleeping, and all these things. And so those feelings, like you said, they did start getting worse and worse and worse. And I just couldn't I couldn't stop it. I couldn't control it. It was really just like a switch. And I remember, one night my mom was here, and I just was so sad. And I went upstairs and I was just crying and just telling her all the things. And the first 2 weeks, because I had someone here supporting me, Dave for the first week, and then once he back to work, my mom for the second week, the days were good. It was really like the nighttime that triggered it. And I think that was the baby blues part. Apparently baby blues is kind of lasts about 14 days. So I do think that that's what I was experiencing. And then once I was gone, it was just me and Josiah here throughout the entire day. It changed. It looked a little different. By that time, nights were getting better. I had a better routine with Josiah. We were bed sharing and he was sleeping better. And so that was good. Throughout the day, I think I would just going through the motions. We would wake up at like 11 o'clock and then just, like I said, go through the motions, changing his diaper, feeding him throughout the day. And I would spend the majority of my time sitting on the couch watching Glee and trying to avoid any emotions that I was feeling and just immerse myself in the fantasy world of Glee. And so I think obviously that was unhealthy because I wasn't dealing with the emotions. I was just kind of pushing them off to the side. And any time I felt like I had to deal with the emotions because for some reason or another I would instantly just want to cry, if I'm being honest. And so I think it all came to a head one day. I'm gonna say it. And I think it all came to a head one day. I was having some really negative feelings, and so I decided the next time I went to Josiah's doctor's appointment, they give you basically a questionnaire every time for you to fill out to determine whether they think the mom is experiencing postpartum depression, and I wasn't being completely honest in those surveys. So after I had that one day, I decided, okay, I'm going to be honest when I fill out this questionnaire. That's bad, don't do that, be honest. And the doctor was like, when I got into the room, Josiah's doctor was like, yeah, I think you have some mild postpartum depression. You're like on the cusp, and I think you should talk to someone about it. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. And I started crying in his office, and he's like, clearly you're not, because you're sitting here crying in front of me, and told me to go talk to someone. And I did, but I didn't really pursue anything else and really do anything to kind of get out of it. I think what really happened is the holidays came and I started spending more time with family during the holidays. They was home more, and I think it just kind of went away, basically. And that was it. So I didn't really do anything to actually manage it or get a hold of it.
Yeah. And for our marriage, honestly, I feel like I'm just now learning the depths of how bad it was, because it was really, really difficult. Is this is someone that you know really well, and then you have this amazing life event, and now this person is not the person that you knew, and you want to support them in the best way that you can, and so you try what you can. You try to be there and support. But at the same time, to be honest, there is a little bit of frustration too, because there's nothing you can do. It's a hopeless feeling almost. I remember times we have, before coronavirus, we were having small groups at our house, and we have another couple friend that would come, and literally I felt like every single time, like 5 minutes before they would get here, Jazz would just have this overwhelming feeling of just sadness, and she would go upstairs and she'd be crying, and then they'd come in and be like, hey, where's Jazz? I'm like, oh, she's just upstairs, whatever, or I'd be with Jazz. And so it's like in one sense you want to do the best you can to help, but in the other like sense is like, I feel like there's nothing I can do. I mean, all I can do is just be here and just tell you it's okay, this is normal, like you don't need to feel that you're a bad mom, whatever the thing that is in your mind at this moment. But for the person who's supporting, it is challenging, even if you know about postpartum, because like when she'd be going through things, I would like Google them and read, like, and it would be like, yeah, this person may be experiencing X, Y, and Z, and I'm like, wow, this is exactly what you're experiencing. And so you have the head knowledge that this is a thing that's happening, but it doesn't really help the emotional part of you. It's like, how do I actually deal with this and help you deal with this in this moment?
That was so good, and I was crying, so I don't know if this is gonna make the cut.
It's gonna have to make the cut.
Clearly, as you can see, don't ever listen. Side note, don't push your feelings aside, because this is what happens. And now I can't even think about that time without crying, because I never ever dealt with him. He's learning things that he never even knew on camera.
Right.
It's not. Ooh, talk to somebody. Goodness. So, what made it better for me? I think getting better sleep, daylight, getting outside, interacting with other people and not being alone. Honestly, that's what helped me the most. I think that's why the holidays made it so much better, because I was around more people, I was doing more things, and so I think that made it better. But
right.
Yeah. So moving forward, it will be better because now I have a therapist, and I'm truly understanding the importance of talking about your feelings and not avoiding them like I used to. And so hopefully I would do this time, if that experiencing. Hopefully it doesn't. I'll be praying for that. But I think that, from that experience, this time, if it happens, will be better.
So what are some of the takeaways we want you guys to get from this? Well, the first thing is that real people go through this. I think sometimes you just hear about these things, but you don't see the real people who are going through it. And so if it happens to you, you feel like I'm actually alone. And you're not alone. And if you end up going through this, be honest and seek the help that you need. I think like Jazz was saying, there was a big part of her experience where she wasn't being honest about what she was possibly facing. And even me, even though I saw the signs, I kind of just thought, oh, it's just baby blues, or, even I was in denial. But being honest about where you are, and seeking help. I think, obviously we're a Christian channel and we believe in the power of prayer and all that. But I think at the same time, it's really important to seek professional help for the things that we're going through, and not neglecting that.
So yeah, that's our experience, and I hope this can be beneficial to someone if they are going through it, and just really encourage someone to not avoid and get help. But that's it for us. See you next time.